Great. Thank you so much, Sylvia. And I just, first off, I want to thank folks for having us here today. We were at IECBC. We're quite fortunate to have had very strong partnerships with Future Skills Center and many of its other components like Blueprint and Conference Board and Diversity Institute. And so I'm looking forward today to sharing a bit of the work that we've been doing as part of that partnership. And so just move on to the next slide. Um, at the Immigrant Employment Council of BC, just to give folks a little bit of background for those who might not know who we are. Of course, we play in the settlement space. We're a part of the settlement sector, but we're very much focused on sort of the needs of employers and their role in making sure that the immigrants who choose to come to Canada and apply to come to Canada and then that are chosen by the Canadian government have the best opportunity to put their skills and experience to use in the Canadian labor market. That's great for the individual, it's great for their families and other dependents that they might have, but it's also what we need for businesses and for the for Canadian communities and the economy as a whole. We said the partnership with Research Impact Canada and Future Skills Centre has been very important to us as an organization, and then helps us work with other groups from coast to coast. So just moving on to the next slide. Because we have a number of different programs at the Immigrant Employment Council of BC, but in particular, the program that I'll talk about today is the FAST program, and it started out as an acronym for Facilitating Access to Skilled Trades. And it was a pilot that we started that was focused in British Columbia. We were looking at the construction trades, as well as sort of carpentry, electricians and power engineers. And this is very much in response to what was then expected to be sort of an explosion in need for those skills and those occupations around the LNG expansion in British Columbia. We started out as a pre-arrival program funded by IRCC back then, but with support from FSC, we've been able to move to support not only folks overseas, but also domestically right across Canada, including some temporary residents as well. We have expanded from the skilled trades to also include seniors care, IT, biotech, and life sciences, culinary arts, finance and accounting. And each time that we look to these sectors to expand, we work very closely with experts in those sectors. And I see that we have folks from ICTC on the line here today, and they were critical in our expansion into the IT sector a number of years ago, just like Biotalent Canada remains a strong partner on the biotech side of things. But why did we develop FAST? We've known for decades, and we've talked about this. It might sound depressing, actually, to talk about it this way, but for about 50 years, we've talked about three major barriers to successful and meaningful immigrant integration into the labor market in Canada. We pick really highly skilled folks here. We do a great job of that as a country by and large. And we know that the interest is there around the world. We're the second most chosen destination for folks who are interested in migrating around the world. But even those people that come to Canada face challenges with credential recognition. They face challenges because they lack Canadian experience. And in some cases, they lack the English or French language skills necessary for a given occupation. And so what we want to do with FAST and what we've been working towards is sort of addressing that conversation around the lack of credential recognition for international credentials, and trying to help fill that gap where folks don't have Canadian experience. So to help employers have greater confidence in how a candidate from abroad will be able to fit into their workplace. And just sort of as a brief overview, what we've seen some really successful outcomes here. I think the real proof in sort of the value that is there to be unlocked in FAST is that we have roughly 60 partners across Canada who work with us. There's over 40 of them would deliver the FAST program to their clients. So we're not a client-facing organization. I go back to what I said about sort of being focused on the employer. We're there to support the two-way integration. So lots of direct service delivery organizations out there doing fantastic work getting immigrants ready for the labor market. But at the Immigrant Employment Council of British Columbia, we're here to answer the question of who's getting the labor market ready for the immigrant and to make sure that they're able to recognize that talent's there and then suitably and appropriately hire from that talent pool and put them into jobs that make best use of their skills. We really are looking to reshape how employers and industries and regions view and immigrant talent. It's about that systems change to move beyond sort of individual success stories to influence those larger employment practices, both at a company level, but at a much broader level as well. And a little bit later, I can mention briefly sort of a partnership that we have with New Brunswick Community College and the Collège Communautaire de Nouveau-Brunswick, where they're taking the FAST program and incorporating it into a larger set of initiatives to help better integrate and better prepare folks for the New Brunswick labor market. So and that's the real systems change that we want to drive here. If we could go to the next slide, please. So and just to touch on what I just said, in terms of framing the problem, we know that immigrants face chronic underemployment, and that's really interesting at a time when we hear that employers are screaming for talent. But we feel that it really boils down to, and the research suggests this, that it boils down to the fact that employers lack the awareness or the ability to really understand what immigrants are bringing to the table and how to make best use of those skills. But at the same time, newcomers are not necessarily prepared for what they're walking into when they choose Canada. And we want to help them navigate that labor market. As somebody who's moved from Nova Scotia to Ontario and now out to British Columbia, I get a very sort of a very small taste of what it's like to have to integrate into new communities and navigate these new spaces. And yet it's all the same country. And I had networks established before I arrived in any of these cities. And so we want to help prepare folks and give them the best chance for success when they choose to come to Canada. And that's a point that I like to emphasize in most conversations, is that as Canadians, I find that we can be a little bit smug about the attraction and how attractive Canada is, and clearly it is to folks around the world. But we need to continue to give immigrants a reason to choose us first before we get the chance to choose them. And the settlement sector is a tremendous part of that of creating and fostering that attractiveness. If we can move to the next slide, please. So with the FAST program, we're very much aligned, and we always, the whole purpose of this is to be very much aligned with what employer needs are in any given sector and in any given occupation in which we work. And it's making sure that link is not only created initially, but maintained and strengthened throughout, that helps to lay the foundation for success. And like I've said, we have seen actually some really great success stories here, and both at the individual level, at company levels, and then systemically. But there's still much that needs to be done. And this is where, again, the Future Skills model, where Blueprint works with us sort of hand in glove to make sure that we can stay in touch with users of the program to understand how we can better refine how we work and how the FAST program prepares people, so individual immigrants, for the job hunt, but again, also reflecting those needs of employers that we've been able to institute a process of continuous improvement on this. Very early days, when we were strictly a pre-arrival program, we saw that 67% of our pre-arrival clients who completed FAST, they were finding a job in their field within 4 weeks of arrival, at salaries that were significantly higher than what we would otherwise see 1 year after arrival for newcomers. At the 8 week mark, or 8 weeks post arrival, we were seeing 85% of our users had found a job in their field. Keeping in mind that these are pre-arrival numbers, and those numbers did drop, when we opened up to sort of the more domestic populations of folks who had been here for a while, and we've been able to adapt and change how we offer the program to folks who are already in Canada to try and better meet their needs and better prepare them for the labor market. It's an online program. It's digitally delivered, and so there's some challenges that come along with that. There's a learning curve for participants to understand what it is that FAST is there for. We've also seen that with our service delivery partners, that it takes a while for folks, and it's sort of an initial adjustment period for some of our service delivery partners to understand who the best clients are for this program. I want to say that FAST is not a training program in the sense that we train people to become a carpenter or train them to work in IT, but more it's an opportunity for folks to demonstrate what they know, and identify gaps in their knowledge so that they can upgrade if need be. But most importantly, go find work today that best uses the skills that they have. So they may not be a Red Seal carpenter, but that doesn't mean they have to dig ditches. What can they do with the skills that they have? Of course, digital literacy is really important in a program like this. It's important in almost any occupation these days, and making sure that users have digital literacy is a key part to their success in using the program. And also, just the limited initial employer involvement. Like I said, we always work closely with employers to make sure that our assessments and the programming is relevant to their needs, so that immigrants who are taking the time to go through the program are actually doing something that's useful, that an employer will recognize. And we, as an organization, spend a great deal of time trying to strengthen that employer involvement and deepen it as we develop the program and as it evolves. We'll move over to the next slide, please. Again, with the continuous improvement and the investigation that we've been doing with Blueprint has been really helpful. We see that the users of the program have very much indicated that having some more guidance, sort of increased support and help from the direct service delivery partners is a key indicator of success on this, and how useful they find it. This isn't a program that most people, especially those who are already in Canada, want to be sort of left to their own devices to do. And to put a fine point on it, at no point do we look at FAST as some sort of silver bullet. Anyone who works in this field knows that these are complex issues, and individuals come sort of with the intersectionality that we all have in our own unique ways. And so it's not that FAST is the one sort of source of truth and the one answer to full employment for folks, but as a combination of services, either language training or other sort of preparatory or settlement services that community organizations offer. We see this as a critical piece in making sure that folks have that full basket of services that gets them settled and then integrated quickly into the labor market. We've also expanded eligibility criteria. So we first focused on permanent residents, but of course, with the explosion of temporary residents, international students in particular, and temporary foreign workers, we were seeing a real need. that was not being addressed. In particular, in seniors care, it was international students who were most interested in looking at occupations there. And so with our partners, we've expanded that eligibility criteria so that we can better support those, not only employers, but then help those folks who are in greater numbers, as we all know, transitioning from temporary resident to permanent resident. And then as well as enhanced language support and user experience. We're very much looking for, sorry, pardon me, very much looking to improve that and the overall user experience to make it more accessible and effective for participants. The language levels, depending on the occupation or the stream that we're focused on, the language levels vary. So CLB 3 or 4 to a 7. And again, that's based on what industry has told us they need for the workers that would be coming in to work with any of their employers. So, and just move on to the next slide, please. So, why have we seen the success that we have so far? Well, it is really about partnership, and it's about collaboration. At no point is IECBC going in and saying this is this is the one true way, and saying that we have all the answers. We want to work very closely with folks in the community and folks in the industry to make sure that the interventions that are being put forward are useful. I always say that, so the Immigrant Employment Council of BC, when we look at our programming, if you think of a Venn diagram with 3 circles, you have the immigrant, the newcomer, you have the employer, and you have service delivery partners. And we want to be that sort of central overlapping piece that helps make sure that what we're delivering is relevant to everyone. FAST, our other programs like Ascend, are developed in partnership with community partners and employers so that we know that the intervention addresses the needs of an employer. It can actually be delivered by a service delivery partner because, again, we're not interested in being direct service delivery, a direct service delivery organization generally at IECBC. But then it's also something that immigrants themselves find useful and are excited to learn or to do. And with 60 partner organizations across Canada, that's a lot of feedback that we get. We want to hear from those we work with on how we can improve it. I have a few colleagues on the call today, and Elham is one of our new senior managers, and she worked with one of our service delivery partners for a number of years in delivering some of our programming, and it's been she's been a tremendous wealth of knowledge to help us improve what we do and work better with folks who are at the coalface, as it were. And that's where that collaboration becomes so key. And again, it's the sector learning. At no point are we sitting here thinking that we have all the answers. We want to learn from folks who are out there so that we can either better improve what we do, link to things that strengthen the overall intervention. So, I firmly believe that with collaboration, with the data collection and analysis, that as a sector, we should be able to get to a point where we can figure out that secret sauce for any given individual that wants to use settlement programming. We know that the need is great. We have a tremendous number of permanent residents now who are eligible for settlement services. So we need to make sure that they're effective, so that we're not wasting their time, but we're also not wasting precious resources that need to be put to use for folks who need that help. So we'll go to the next slide, please. So what's next? What are we looking towards at IECBC and with our partner network? So again, I'd stick with that theme of continuous improvement. We want to hear from the folks that we work with on how we can do this better and how we can better support them in the work they do in their communities. And with that, or in doing so, it's this close collaboration with Blueprint, looking at a theory of change, conducting our evaluations so that it would include things like A/B testing. looking to expand the occupation streams. So covering more high demand industries. We look like it's not always simple to figure out which sector we would try and enter into. We can look at supply and demand, but we also need those industry experts who want to work with us and really see the value in changing how we look at newcomer talent. With our service delivery network, we have 60 partners. I believe we operate in every province. I think there may only be one where we're not delivering programs. And then, of course, the Northern Territories is important not to forget there. With extended eligibility, we'll continue to focus on international students and temporary foreign workers who can benefit from the programs and benefit from the ability to better link to employers to use their skills. And with data collection and a commitment to building our own capacity internally, IECBC wants to know that what we're doing is truly having an impact, and that drives some of this commitment, or it's driven by a commitment to continuous learning. And I just always like to finish off this with focusing on some of the success stories, because it does, while I say we are focused on systemic change, I mean, it does come down to the individual level as well. And so on the next slide, we'll just highlight a couple of folks that we've worked with. And what I'm happy to say is that we're able to update these numbers or these names on a fairly regular basis, just to point out where folks are going and how things have been working out for them. I think one of the key pieces with FAST is that we're trying to drive a change in how employers in particular are looking at the talent that comes in front of them. We talk about foreign credential recognition sort of ad nauseum in Canada, and certainly doctors driving cabs is the story that we hear of. And we actually know from the data that we're not all running into cardiologists in our taxis and Ubers. StatScan has showed us that years ago. But what it really points to is that while the Canadian immigration system does a fantastic job of finding highly skilled people, Canadian employers tend to use credentials as a shorthand for ability and for skill. And so when we hire, we look for people with a degree, or we look for people with a diploma. And that's not actually generally what we're looking for, or should be looking for, as hiring managers. 80% of the labor market is unregulated. So there's only 20% of the jobs out there that require an actual credential. And so how do we help people see the skill that's in front of them and change that mindset from employers to hire based on skill and ability, as opposed to using a degree as shorthand for ability? So, I have a Bachelor of Public Relations from Mount St. Vincent University in Halifax. No one who was on the hiring committee at IECBC had ever set foot on that campus, but they trusted that because they had gone to a Canadian institution, that they understood what I likely had gone through there and left with. But that trust breaks down the second that the institution is from outside of Canada. And so for us and our demographic needs, our productivity needs in Canada, and we know that those numbers are dire, shifting that focus is going to be critical in our success moving forward. And my hope is that that FAST plays a role in helping to shape that change and drive it. So, and again, I'd just like to thank my team, Rania and Kakada on the call as well here, who have been tremendous in driving the FAST program and driving IECBC's work. But again, Future Skills and Diversity Institute and Blueprint and others is that sort of collaboration that makes all of this possible, and including a number of our service delivery partners from coast to coast who I see on the call today. So thank you. Sylvia, go back to you.